First, you're going to go to this website and you are going to paste in the URL for the website that you want to create a QR code for. Then you will download it. You will save it as a PNG and then click the download button and save it to your hard drive. Next, we'll convert this PNG file to an SVG using Silhouette Studio. So you're going to open the PNG file that you just created, and we're using the business edition because that is the one you'll need to use to save it to an SVG file. And we're going to trace it, and then you're going to select a trace area and then just click and drag a box around the QR code and then click on trace. Now you are going to click and drag the trace out away from the PNG file, and then you can click on the PNG file and just delete it. Next, we will export this as an SVG file. So you're going to go up to File and Save As. You want to save it to your hard drive. You're going to want to select SVG. I'm sorry, it's not better quality, but select the SVG. And then save this to your hard drive. And now we're going to prepare the STL file using Tinkercad. So you're going to import the SVG file that you just created. Then I'm just going to use the scroll on my mouse to scroll in and out. I'm going to change the settings so that it's in inches instead of millimeters. And then I'm going to set the width and the length to 1 inch. Now I'm going to drag out a cylinder, and I'm going to set the sides to 64. And then I'm going to set that to 1 inch by 1 inch. Then I'm going to drag out a cube, and I'll set that to 1.1 inch by 1.1 inch. Now I'm going to set the units back to millimeters, because now I'm going to want to set the height of these items. So I'm going to set the height of this cube to 1.2 millimeters, and I'll set the height of my QR code to 1.5 millimeters. And I will set the height of the cylinder to 1.2 millimeters. I'm going to duplicate the cylinder by pressing Control D, and then I'm going to resize the duplicated cylinder to be smaller, and then I'm going to set it as a hole. And then I'm going to align them so that they're centered together. And I did not set that middle one quite small enough, so I'm going to resize the whole cylinder to 24 by 24. And again, I'm going to align them. Then I'm going to group them. Now I'm going to align the QR code with the cube. and I'm going to group them. And I'll just change the color to white so that we can see it a little better. Then I'm going to align the cube with the little cylinder that I made and center it. And at this point, I want this to be a little bit thicker. And so I'm ungrouping it, and I'm going to make that inner hole smaller. So 21 by 21. I'll align them again, and then I'll group them. And position that on my QR code. I'm going to align it to the center. Then I'm going to group everything. And so now our QR code is ready to export as an STL file. So we're going to export as STL, and I'll just save it to my hard drive. Okay, now I'm going to prepare to print this using Bambu Studio. And I'm going to use a 0.2 millimeter nozzle. And I am using a BambuLab A1 Mini 3D printer. So I'm going to use a textured PEI plate. I'm just using a generic PLA. And I'm using the 0.08 millimeter high quality preset that they have. With some changes, I'm going to change that initial layer height to 0.12 millimeters. I'm going to make sure detect thin wall is checked, and I am not going to enable a prime tower. Now we are going to import our STL file that we created, and then we will slice it. Now we need to determine where we are going to set the color change. So you want to make sure that your color scheme is set to line type, and then from the bottom you're going to drag up until all you see is the QR code right there. Then you're going to right click on that point and you're going to add a pause. And what that will do is when it's running, it is going to add a pause at that point and you can change your filament. So now I'm going to clone this so that I can have a few more. I don't want to add too many because I have a problem with them lifting off the bed. And now we'll go to the 3D printer. Okay, I have cleaned off my build plate with some IPA, and I'm going to put a glue stick on it now. Okay, I've got a nice coating of glue on there, a thin coating. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is load the filament, and so I'm going to add some pressure here to the back. And then as it goes, I want to make sure that the extruder catches hold of the filament. Okay, it's got a hold of it. And I want to make sure it's feeding through. And since my previous filament was black and I'm replacing it with white, I want to make sure that it's completely flushed. So I am going to click done, and then we'll watch the flush. Okay, and it didn't flush out quite as much as I would like, so I am going to select load again, and we'll watch it. Okay, I'm going to click Done over here. And now it's going to purge a little more to completely get rid of the black. Okay, and the load is complete. So we'll just back out of here and we are ready to start our run. And now that we've got our filament loaded, we are going to go ahead and send our sliced file to the printer. And something else I've done is I've lowered the bed temperature to 60 degrees. The particular profile we're using, it defaults to 65, but I don't know if that was contributing to the models coming up off the bed or not, so I lowered the temperature to 60. Okay, this is now paused. And so I'll just hit the X here to get out of this screen. And then I'm going to go to filament and I'm going to unload and wait for it to unload. Okay, now it wants me to pull back the filament. So I will start to pull back the white filament and then I'm going to load some black filament. All right, I have pushed the black filament up and now I'm going to load. And I'm going to apply a little pressure on this to make sure that this grabs a hold of it when it reaches temperature. So I'm going to look for this thing right here to start turning, and that will tell me when the extruder is taking up the filament, and then I'll be able to feel it. Okay, it's taking up the filament now. Okay, and I'm going to press done, and then we'll watch it extrude. Okay, it is finished loading, so I'll back out, and now I'm going to resume the run by pressing the run. All right, and it just finished. So I'm going to click OK here. Then I'm going to unload my filament. And then I'm going to carefully remove this with a razor blade.